Introduction. The year is wrong. The year is wrong. That is the first thing you must understand. Your calendar says now, but the rules that decide your success were finished long before you were born. They have not aged, they have not softened, and they do not negotiate with modern excuses. Most men believe failure is personal. It is not. It is mechanical. It is the predictable result of violating laws they were never taught to respect. When those laws are obeyed, success stops being hopeful and starts becoming inevitable. What you are about to hear is not advice. Advice can be ignored. This is instruction, plain, old, almost offensively simple instruction. Written in a time when men were expected to govern themselves without applause, you will be tempted to dismiss these lessons as obvious. That temptation has ruined more lives than ignorance ever did. The truths that change destinies rarely sound new. They sound familiar and demand obedience you have postponed. Listen differently now, not as a modern man-hunting novelty, but as a serious mind searching for alignment. One of these lessons will disturb you. That is the one that has been waiting nearly a century for you to hear it. Do not measure these ideas by how they sound. Measure them by what happens when you live them. When law meets obedience, results follow without drama. Let us begin, quietly, decisively, with the first lesson. Lesson 1, the law of first direction. Every great undertaking begins long before action is visible. It begins in the quiet chamber of the mind where a man stands alone with his own desire and makes the decision that shapes the entire course of his life. From the outside, the world sees change only when the hands begin to labor, when plans take form, or when fortune reveals itself. But the true beginning lies deeper. It lies in the moment a man ceases to wander and chooses his direction with the seriousness of one issuing a decree. Until this inward event occurs, success cannot speak to him, for success does not answer men who move without aim. A man may possess talent, ambition, or strong habits, but these qualities remain scattered until direction gathers them. Without direction, strength leaks through 1,000 cracks. Without direction, days are spent in noble effort but wasted upon unworthy aims. Without direction, opportunity arrives, but finds no container prepared to receive it. A mind that has not chosen its destination cannot guide the steps that would lead toward it. This is why I call direction the first law, because nothing in the life of a successful man begins before it. All other virtues rest upon this foundation. Even persistence, which is praised by many, is mere stubbornness unless it is attached to a definite aim. Faith, which moves mountains, becomes superstition if it is not anchored in purpose. And enthusiasm, which can stir nations, becomes a flickering flame when it is not tied to a singular end. Observe the conduct of Edwin C. Barnes. When he declared that he would become the business partner of Thomas Edison, he did not say he hoped, wished, or desired vaguely. He chose his direction with a firmness that left no room for confusion. His clothes were worn, his resources almost nothing, yet his direction gave him an inward authority that riches could not have added. Direction elevated him above his circumstances. It made him appear to others as a man destined for advancement. And because he carried this inner clarity, the world began to treat him accordingly. Contrast this with the multitude who scatter themselves among many small wishes. They desire comfort today, opportunity tomorrow, reputation next week. They shift their aim as easily as the wind changes its course. They cannot commit to one thing long enough to become the master of it. Their direction is borrowed from mood, not fixed by decision. Such men remain in motion, but make no progress. They confuse movement with advancement and wonder why years pass without reward. Direction is not a casual selection. It is an inward alignment that gathers every part of a man toward one end. It clarifies thought. It organizes energy. It sharpens perception. It purifies desire. It does not merely point the way, it prepares the traveler. When a man chooses his direction, the subconscious accepts this as law and begins shaping his conduct to match the decree. Idle habits fall away, indecision loses ground, effort becomes unified. The man becomes one thing instead of many fragments. You may have noticed that those who succeed seem to move with calm authority, even before their results appear. This calmness is not arrogance. It is the natural effect of direction. A man who knows where he is going does not tremble with every change in weather. He does not question his worth at every difficulty. He does not retreat because others doubt him. His direction holds him steady. He becomes like a river that cannot turn back to its source. All its force moves forward. Direction also reveals the companions you must keep and the companions you must release. When a man does not know his path, all company feels suitable. But when direction is chosen, he sees clearly which influences strengthen him and which weaken him. As a man adjusts his course, his environment adjusts with him. People sense direction. They either rise to meet it or fall away from it. Let us consider how direction transforms a man in the eyes of others. A person without direction appears uncertain, easily swayed, easily doubtful. But a man with direction commands respect even before he has earned it. His certainty becomes a form of silent persuasion. Others feel safer near him because he appears safe within himself. Even those who disagree with him recognize that he moves from conviction, not convenience. Direction also protects a man from the great danger of imitation. Many fail because they attempt to follow the aims of others rather than the call of their own nature. They adopt goals that do not belong to them and then wonder why their spirit rebels. But a man who chooses his direction from within cannot be swayed by the noise of comparison. His purpose becomes a compass that returns him to truth whenever distraction calls. When you choose your direction, choose boldly. Choose something worthy of the discipline it will demand. Choose something that strengthens you as you pursue it. And once chosen, do not revisit the decision except to deepen it. A direction reconsidered daily is not direction at all. It is wavering disguised as thought. Lesson 2, the habit of silent force. As I continued my study of the men whose names became woven into the industry and achievement of this nation, I discovered that nearly all of them shared a quality that eludes the common man. This quality was not brilliance, nor unusual strength, nor favorable fortune. It was not charm, nor lineage, nor rare opportunity. It was something so simple that most people overlook it entirely. They worked with a silent force, a calm, steady, unbroken persistence that asked for no praise, needed no excitement, and depended upon no outward encouragement. While the average man labored with much noise and little progress, these men worked with little noise and great progress. Silent force cannot be understood by those who believe progress must be dramatic to be real. Most men pursue their aims with bursts of enthusiasm followed by long seasons of idleness. They believe they can make up in intensity what they lack in consistency. But life does not reward the man whose flame burns wildly for a moment. It rewards the man whose flame burns steadily for years. Silent force is the flame that does not flicker. Observe Henry Ford in his early years, long before machines bore his name. He did not shout his ambition. He did not declare to every passerby that he would revolutionize transportation. He bent his head over each small improvement, repeated his experiments, refined his failures, and returned the next day with the same quiet determination. There was no noise in his labor, no audience to admire his effort. Yet the force he generated through repetition grew until it became visible in the world around him. Contrast this with the man who requires applause to work, or the man who cannot move forward unless excitement carries him. Such a man begins with vigor, but ends with weariness. His enthusiasm cannot endure the friction of slow results. He expects quick harvests from shallow soil. When difficulties arise, his fire evaporates, and he believes fate has betrayed him. In truth, he has betrayed himself, for he relied upon emotion instead of discipline. Silent force does not rely on emotion. It is built upon decision. Once a man decides upon his aim, silent force becomes the method by which that aim is pursued. It is not loud, for loudness is often a sign of doubt. It is not hurried, for hurry is a confession of disorganization. It is not dependent upon inspiration, for inspiration is unreliable. Silent force is a habit, not a mood. Most men underestimate the might of a habit. They imagine that only great actions produce great results. But I have found that the smallest act, when repeated faithfully, contains more power than the largest act performed only once. The hill is moved not by the shovel struck in anger, but by the steady lifting and placing of earth. Silent force is the method by which mountains are moved without commotion. When a man practices silent force, something deep within him changes. His mind becomes obedient to his will. His will becomes obedient to his purpose. The scattered impulses that once controlled him fall silent. His confidence grows, not through praise, but through the quiet knowledge that he can rely upon himself. He becomes a man others trust, even before understanding why. Men of silent force never boast of how hard they work. They do not speak endlessly of their obstacles. They do not seek pity or admiration. They simply continue, and this continuation is their advantage. For the world is filled with men who begin strongly and end weakly. The man who continues quietly, steadily, without complaint, will surpass them all, for the world cannot resist the progress of one who refuses to stop. Silent force is also a protector of time. The man who works quietly wastes no hours on dramatizing his effort. He does not pause to convince others of his seriousness. His energy is reserved for creation, not performance. This is why men of silent force gain years others lose. Their progress multiplies because they do not leak energy through noise, distraction, or emotional outbursts. Silent force becomes especially powerful when progress appears slow. The common man abandons his aim when results do not match his expectations. But the man of silent force knows that slow progress is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that foundations are being laid. He does not protest the pace. He trusts the law of accumulation. He continues. Others will begin to notice the change in you when silent force becomes your nature. They will see in your manner a quiet confidence, a steadiness that does not depend on mood. They will trust your word because your action repeats it. They will sense that you are not experimenting with your purpose. You are advancing toward it. Lesson 3, the ledger within. In my long study of success, I discovered that every man carries a secret ledger within his own mind, a silent bookkeeper that records each thought he permits to remain, each belief he repeats, each doubt he entertains, and each conviction he strengthens. This ledger determines far more than his outward labor. It determines the limit or the expansion of his destiny. While the world measures a man by his actions, life measures him by the balance within this ledger. For action is only the outer echo of thought, and thought is the seed that commands the field. Most men never learn that each recurring thought is a deposit or a debt. A thought of fear is a withdrawal from the account of courage. A thought of defeat is a subtraction from the account of possibility. A thought of envy is a charge against the account of faith. These thought debts accumulate quietly until the man discovers, often too late, that he has bankrupted his chance for greatness long before he ever attempted to act. But the man who understands the ledger begins at once to reverse his fortune. He recognizes that each intentional thought of confidence is a deposit toward a stronger character. Each repetition of purpose deepens his resolve. Each inner phrase of determination becomes a coin in the treasury of his will. As these deposits grow, something remarkable happens. Life begins to deal with him according to the balance he has built, not the circumstances he inhabits. Most men guard their money more carefully than their thoughts, never realizing that money is merely an outward reflection of inner conditions. A poor thought habit will destroy wealth faster than misfortune. A rich thought habit will create opportunity where none appears visible. Every man is his own treasurer, and the mind does not forgive careless bookkeeping. You may not be able to control every event of your day, but you can control every thought you choose to strengthen. Events occur briefly. Thoughts remain until replaced. You may not change your surroundings at once, but you can change the ledger from which your surroundings arise. The world begins to reorganize itself when you reorganize the ideas that occupy your inner chamber. This law is neither mystical nor mysterious. It is practical. It is as reliable as gravity. I observed its operation among successful men so frequently that I began to regard it as a law of nature. Their fortunes rose because their inner ledger carried a consistent surplus of thought deposits, belief, direction, courage, and expectation. These deposits shaped the tone of their speech, the firmness of their manner, and the decisiveness of their action. You must therefore begin the work of deliberate thought accounting. Treat your mind as a treasury. Admit no thought that weakens your aim. Encourage no idea that lowers your expectation. Strengthen no image that contradicts the man you intend to become. Every time you permit a destructive thought to remain, you pay interest on that thought in the form of wasted days and weakened will. A single negative idea repeated often is more dangerous than one great misfortune. Misfortune comes and goes, but a repeated idea becomes a habit, and a habit becomes identity. The ledger does not merely store thoughts, it shapes the man who stores them. Thus, you must choose your thoughts with the seriousness of one choosing the bricks with which he will build his home. Once you begin this discipline, others will notice a change in you. They may not hear the thoughts you choose, but they will feel the authority they produce. You will speak with clearer tone, walk with steadier bearing, and meet difficulty with calmer judgment. These outward signs reflect an inward surplus. The ledger within you will determine the height you reach long before the world sees the first sign of victory. It is the root system beneath the soil. It is the unseen engine of destiny. If it is in order, results must eventually appear. If it is in disorder, no amount of effort can compensate. Lesson 4, the law of useful companionship. As I moved deeper into the study of men who rose from obscurity to achievement, one fact became clearer than any other. No great success was ever the work of a solitary mind. The world admires the image of the self-made man, standing tall upon accomplishments crafted by his own hand. But this image is a myth that flatters pride while obscuring truth. Every man who rose to significance, whether in commerce, invention, or statesmanship, did so through companionship that strengthened his thought, steadied his will, and complemented his deficiencies. It is not weakness to depend upon other minds. It is wisdom. I call this principle useful companionship because companionship alone is not enough. A man may surround himself with company that entertains him, flatters him, or soothes his doubts, yet such company offers no aid in the shaping of success. Useful companionship is deliberate. It is built upon mutual value. It is chosen not for comfort, but for elevation. It joins minds that share a seriousness of purpose and a standard of conduct that demands more from each than either would demand alone. Andrew Carnegie understood this law better than any man of his generation. He often declared that his greatest fortune was not steel, nor property, nor machinery, but the company of able men he gathered around him. His cabinet of associates contained minds that differed in skill but united in purpose. Each man strengthened the whole. Each brought clarity where another brought foresight. Each contributed to a harmony of thought that produced results no single mind could have devised. Carnegie knew that a great enterprise is not built by one mind thinking alone, but by several minds thinking as one. You must not mistake this law for the common idea of friendship. Friendship, though valuable, does not guarantee success. There are friends who hinder ambition by urging caution where courage is needed. There are friends who encourage distraction rather than discipline. There are friends who admire your dreams but lack the ability or desire to help you build them. Friendship serves the heart. Useful companionship serves destiny. Useful companionship does more than strengthen thought. It strengthens character. When a man keeps company with minds of discipline, he becomes more disciplined. When he surrounds himself with men of strong purpose, his own purpose deepens. When he allies with men who strive for excellence, he becomes ashamed to fall short. A man rises or falls according to the moral tone of those who walk beside him. This law contains both opportunity and danger. The same principle that can lift a man can also pull him downward if applied blindly. The wrong companionship weakens conviction, distracts the mind, and nurtures habits that corrode progress. Many men possess worthy aims, yet fail because they remain in the company of those who doubt, procrastinate, or belittle ambition. Such minds scatter energy and produce confusion. You cannot soar when you walk among those who crawl. When a man forms useful companionship, something extraordinary occurs. He gains access to wisdom he did not earn alone. Problems that once seemed insurmountable become manageable when viewed through multiple perspectives. His courage grows because he no longer stands alone against adversity. Allies lend him confidence until his own confidence becomes large enough to sustain him. You may wonder how to find or form such companionship. You do not search for it among those who speak loudly of their ambitions, but among those who demonstrate them. Look for men who carry themselves with purpose, who speak thoughtfully, who work faithfully, who do not shrink from responsibility. Such men may not announce their greatness, but their character reveals it. When you join your mind with theirs, your horizon expands. And do not fear that your present station disqualifies you. Barnes did not possess wealth or influence when he entered Edison's world. What he possessed was direction and willingness. Ability respects willingness. Strong minds recognize sincerity. If your aim is definite and your conduct honorable, you will draw to yourself minds that strengthen your character and accelerate your progress. The world judges you not only by the company you keep, but by the company you attract. When others observe that you walk beside capable men, they assume you are capable yourself, for men seldom associate deeply with those beneath their standard. Thus, useful companionship not only lifts your ability, but also elevates the way others perceive your ability. Perception becomes opportunity. Lesson 5. The law of obedient imagination. Among all the faculties with which man has been endowed, none holds greater creative power or greater destructive power than imagination. It is the workshop in which thought takes shape, where desire gains form, where hope is clothed in substance, and where fear is permitted to mold gloom into reality. Most men treat imagination as a form of idle fancy, a passing indulgence, a private theater in which dreams play briefly and vanish. But the successful man treats imagination as a forge, where the designs of his future are made and hardened into commands. His imagination does not wander, it obeys. I call this the law of obedient imagination, for imagination does not merely show pictures to the mind, it instructs the subconscious what to build. The subconscious, loyal to every dominant idea, accepts these mental images as blueprints and proceeds to gather the materials of circumstance, opportunity, and action to match them. Thus, the man who allows his imagination to roam in fear unwittingly commands failure, while the man who directs his imagination with intention silently orders success. But imagination becomes perilous when left without direction. The average man imagines defeat more often than victory. He rehearses misfortune, not success. He pictures obstacles larger than they truly are. He imagines what he fears with greater intensity than what he desires. These mental pictures, repeated daily, take root. They instruct the subconscious to prepare for failure. And failure, being faithfully obeyed, arrives with punctual certainty. You must take command of your imagination as a general takes command of an army. You must decide what images are allowed to remain. You must dismiss the pictures that weaken your spirit. You must enlarge the pictures that strengthen your purpose. Imagination left idle becomes a thief. Imagination directed becomes a servant. You must create pictures that demand growth. Do not imagine yourself as you are, but as the man required to fulfill the aim you have chosen. Imagination must lead you upward, not reflect you downward. Picture a clearer mind, a stronger character, a firmer will, a disciplined habit of thought. Picture your work executed with precision, your days ordered with purpose, your presence carrying weight. These images, repeated quietly, teach your subconscious what to draw from you. Others will notice when you have mastered this law. They may not see the pictures in your mind, but they will feel the confidence those pictures produce. They will remark upon your calmness, your certainty, your manner of speaking as though you have already walked the road you are beginning. They will sense that nothing in your conduct contradicts your aim. That is the sign of a man whose imagination is obedient. You must also understand that your imagination is influenced by your environment. The pictures you allow into your mind through conversation, reading, and companionship shape the pictures your imagination later creates. Therefore, guard the entrance to your mind as you would guard the vault of a treasure. Admit only what strengthens your purpose. Reject what weakens it. Be wary of imagining too many outcomes at once. A divided imagination leads to a divided life. Hold one image of your chief aim and let every other picture fall away. Consistency of image produces consistency of action. Consistency of action produces inevitability of result. The great men I studied were not gifted with unusual powers. They were gifted with unusual discipline. They refused to allow their imagination to wander into doubt. They refused to indulge pictures that contradicted their direction. They lived within images of their desire until those images became identity. And once identity was formed, success followed. For the world always aligns with the man who has aligned himself inwardly. Imagination must be trained. It must be exercised. It must be nourished with thought and faith. The more you repeat an inner image, the more vivid it becomes. The more vivid it becomes, the more power it gains. The more power it gains, the more naturally your actions conform to its outline. Your imagination is building your future this very moment. The question is not whether it is building, but whether it is building by accident or by command. Lesson 6, the law of moral power. As my study of achievement grew broader and deeper, I found myself returning again and again to one truth so persistent that it could not be dismissed as coincidence. The strongest opportunities flowed toward the strongest characters. Men of wavering integrity found themselves advancing one day and retreating the next. Men of questionable motives rose briefly and then fell with dramatic speed. But men whose character carried the weight of principle, men who could be trusted, men who honored their word, men whose conduct was consistent, found that doors opened for them with ease where others found only barriers. It became clear to me that character is not merely a moral virtue. It is a form of currency, a purchasing power that buys confidence, respect, influence, and eventually wealth. Many men misunderstand character. They imagine it to be a private quality, admired perhaps by conscience, but irrelevant to success. Nothing could be farther from truth. Character is a public force. It precedes a man into every room he enters. It speaks before he speaks. It shapes the tone with which others respond to him. Men of strong character carry an atmosphere, an unmistakable impression that they can be depended upon. Men of weak character carry an odor of risk. Observe the rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Whatever one thinks of his policies, none could deny the power of his character. He was firm, disciplined, courageous, and steady in principle. His character did not merely support his success, it generated it. Men followed him not because he demanded loyalty, but because he embodied the stability that others wished to cultivate within themselves. This is moral power, the ability to influence without force, to command without shouting, to inspire without pleading. This law becomes even clearer when you examine the failures. Men who sought shortcuts, who bent principles for temporary gain, who used deception to advance their aims, inevitably paid a great penalty. Their victories were brief, their reputations shattered, their opportunities poisoned. Wealth cannot remain in the hands of the corrupt, for corruption repels trust, and trust is the lifeblood of enterprise. A man may gather riches by questionable methods, but he will not keep them. Fortune is drawn to character and escapes characterlessness. You must understand that moral power is not a rigid severity, nor a pretended virtue. It is a practical force built through daily conduct. Each time you keep your word, your character strengthens. Each time you choose honesty over convenience, your character earns interest. Each time you restrain anger, temper desire, or control impulse, you enlarge the foundation upon which your future must rest. Character is built in private, but rewarded in public. Let us consider why character holds such economic force. A man of integrity frees the minds of those around him. They do not worry whether he hides a motive. They do not question whether he will fulfill his obligations. Their thoughts remain unburdened. People gravitate toward those who ease their concerns. They recoil from those who multiply them. Thus, character becomes a magnet for cooperation. A strong character also expands opportunity by enlarging a man's own sense of worthiness. Many men fail not because they lack ability, but because they secretly doubt their right to succeed. They sabotage their efforts, shrink from advancement, or accept conditions beneath their potential. But when a man disciplines himself inwardly, when he behaves in a manner that earns his own respect, he begins to feel deserving of success. His subconscious responds. His decisions become bolder. His presence becomes firmer. His results follow. Character is also protection. When storms arise, and they will rise for every man, character steadies the spirit. It prevents panic. It preserves judgment. It keeps emotion from flooding reason. Many failures occur not because the plan was poor, but because the man was unprepared to hold steady under pressure. Character is the ballast that keeps the vessel upright when the winds strike. It is true that some men possess charm that wins temporary favor. But charm without character is a painted mask. It cracks under the weight of responsibility. The world eventually withdraws from the man whose mask hides weakness beneath it. But the world draws near to the man whose strength is genuine, steady, and tested by time. Do not imagine that your present character is fixed. Character can be enlarged. It can be sharpened. It can be strengthened by intention. Each day offers opportunities to practice restraint, honesty, courage, patience, clarity, and discipline. These virtues accumulate like coins, building a treasury of moral power that will one day pay for opportunities you could not purchase otherwise. Others will notice your growth. They will sense a dignity in your manner, a steadiness in your tone, a reliability in your conduct. They will offer trust without bargaining, and trust, once given, unlocks doors no keys can open. Lesson 7. The Law of Decision Without Echo. Among the most common errors I observed in the lives of unsuccessful men was their belief that a decision must be revisited, reconsidered, rephrased, and repeated endlessly before it gains power. They speak of their aims today with boldness, only to speak of their doubts tomorrow with equal confidence. Their decisions echo throughout their days, bouncing from conviction to hesitation, from certainty to retreat. This echo destroys the force of their will. No decision gains strength through repetition of thought. A decision gains strength through finality. A true decision is an inward decree, a law the man sets upon himself. It is spoken once, silently or aloud, and from that moment forward it governs his conduct. He does not rehearse it. He does not negotiate with it. He does not gather approval to reinforce it. A true decision stands alone, unshaken by emotion, untouched by the passing of days. The man obeys it because he has made it. This is the law of decision without echo. I learned this principle most vividly through the example of Dr. Frank Gonzalez. He spent years declaring to others that he would one day build a college for young men, but this was not a decision. It was a desire clothed in words. It carried no force, for it was spoken without commitment. But the moment he resolved inwardly that he would secure $1 million at once, his tone changed. He told his congregation his intention not as a dream, but as a decree. He did not revisit the matter in doubt. He did not waver. He walked toward his aim with the calmness of one fulfilling a duty, and in less than a week the man capable of supplying that million appeared. This is the power of decision without echo. Most men do not fail because their decisions are poor. They fail because their decisions are weak. They announce them loudly, but abandon them quietly. They speak of ambition in moments of inspiration, but surrender it in moments of fatigue. Their decisions echo endlessly inside their minds because they have never been sealed. An unsealed decision must be repeated because it has not been obeyed. A sealed decision requires no repetition because the man has already begun to act as though the outcome were certain. You must learn to distinguish between a preference and a decision. A preference is something a man would like to have. A decision is something he will have, and having declared it, he adjusts his conduct accordingly. A preference shifts with conditions. A decision shapes conditions. A preference asks, "May I?" A decision declares, "I shall." The men who achieved greatness did not repeat their decisions. They embodied them. Edison did not wake each morning to ask whether he would continue his search for the incandescent lamp. The decision had already been made. Roosevelt did not question whether he would serve with courage. The decision lived within him. Carnegie did not revisit whether he would build an empire of industry. The decision shaped his every day. When a man continues to talk about the same decision, it reveals that the decision has not entered his identity. He is trying to convince himself through sound rather than through action. But the subconscious does not obey echoes. It obeys only the seriousness of a decree followed by corresponding effort. Once the subconscious accepts a decision as final, it begins arranging resources, allies, ideas, and opportunities with a precision that astonishes the untrained mind. This law does not suggest that a man should decide hastily or without thought. Proper decision requires clarity of direction and sincerity of purpose. But once the decision is made, further debate must cease. A man who debates after deciding has not decided. He has postponed decision under the disguise of thought. Others will sense your change the moment you begin practicing this law. Your tone will shift. Your presence will steady. Conversation will no longer trap you in justifications. You will speak little of your plans, yet your movement will reveal their seriousness. Men respect finality. They follow those who stand unmoved. They distrust those who must re-explain themselves. A decision without echo creates peace of mind. It silences doubt. It frees energy. Instead of spending your strength on internal argument, you spend it on progress. You no longer tremble when delays appear or when results come slowly. You know that you have chosen, and that time itself now bends toward your choice. Lesson 8, the law of right sacrifice. As I examined the rise of the most successful men of my time, I found a principle so simple and so often ignored that it explained more failures than misfortune ever could. Every gain demands a release. No man can hold two directions at once. No man can cling to old habits while reaching for new results. No man can be devoted to comfort and also claim greatness. This truth reveals itself quietly in the lives of all who achieve lasting success. They practice the law of right sacrifice, the art of surrendering the lesser so the greater may take its place. Most men misunderstand sacrifice. They imagine it to be loss, deprivation, or punishment. But true sacrifice is not suffering, it is exchange. It is the deliberate removal of what weakens a man's growth, so he may strengthen what matters most. The farmer does not mourn the seed he buries. He rejoices in the harvest it summons. In this same way, the successful man parts with what seems precious only because he knows it must give way to something more valuable. Frank Woolworth, whose rise from humble beginnings built an empire of stores, practiced this law with remarkable discipline. He sacrificed the comfort of steady wages for the uncertainty of enterprise. He sacrificed the approval of those who doubted him for the satisfaction of proving them wrong. He sacrificed ease for order, leisure for learning. Each surrender increased his capacity. Each relinquishment strengthened his aim. His sacrifices were not losses. They were the very tools that carved his success. Yet most men resist sacrifice because they fear that giving up anything diminishes them. They cling to habits that exhaust them, companionships that distract them, comforts that weaken them, and fears that blind them. They demand improvement while protecting the very behaviors that prevent it. They attempt to build new results upon old identities. Such efforts collapse, not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of surrender. Right sacrifice is not reckless. It is precise. It demands that a man measure each attachment by a single question. Does this strengthen or weaken my purpose? If it strengthens, he preserves it. If it weakens, he releases it, quietly, firmly, without complaint. The man who practices right sacrifice does not throw away value. He removes burden. He lightens his load so he may climb. A man's character is revealed not by what he accumulates, but by what he is willing to relinquish. The weak man surrenders responsibility. The strong man surrenders excuses. The weak man sacrifices his future for the ease of the present. The strong man sacrifices his ease for the strength of his future. The world rewards the latter and punishes the former without exception. Sacrifice also clarifies purpose. When a man gives something up for his aim becomes more precious to him. He becomes protective of it. He invests more deeply in it. His subconscious begins to value it with seriousness. This emotional investment strengthens resolve, making retreat unthinkable. A man who has sacrificed for his purpose becomes a man who will persist until his purpose is complete. Others will notice the change when you begin practicing this law. They will sense a firmness in your manner, a seriousness in your tone, a quiet resolve in the way you conduct yourself. You will not need to announce your sacrifices. They will reveal themselves in the quality of your progress. Men may wonder how you move so steadily, how you seem less burdened than before, how your eyes reflect a clearer vision. The answer will be simple. You have laid down what no longer belongs to the man you are becoming. Right sacrifice also transforms desire into action. Many men desire success, but take no steps toward it because desire alone carries no cost. But once a man sacrifices something for his aim, whether time, comfort, habit, or approval, desire becomes duty. Duty moves a man in ways desire never could. Duty shapes character. Duty summons strength. There will come moments, however, when sacrifice feels weighty. The older habits will call to you. The easier paths will tempt you. The voices of the past will remind you of the comfort you once held. In these moments, anchor yourself with this truth. If you surrender now, you surrender the man you could become. The men who succeeded were not free from temptation. They were free from negotiation. They had decided once and for all that the price was worth the prize. They paid it willingly, repeatedly, faithfully. Lesson 9, the law of controlled temperature. As I observed the conduct of the most successful men of my era, I discovered a distinction so clear and so decisive that it separated builders from dreamers. It was not talent that made the difference, nor opportunity, nor education. It was the way each man governed his inner temperature, the emotional climate in which his thoughts worked and his decisions took shape. Some men allowed their feelings to flare and collapse like sudden storms. Others maintained a steady heat of purpose that warmed every action but never scorched it. This discipline, quiet and rarely understood, is what I call the law of controlled temperature. Emotion is not an enemy. Emotion is a servant when governed. It is the fire that warms the engines of thought, the spark that ignites action, the breath that gives life to imagination. But fire that grows wild destroys the very structure it was meant to strengthen. Emotion that grows undisciplined burns judgment, blinds reason, and scatters purpose. The successful man understands this. He welcomes emotion but keeps it within the furnace of discipline, where it powers his advancement without ever consuming him. Observe Henry Ford. He possessed deep enthusiasm, but it was never frantic. His excitement did not throw him into chaos, nor did disappointment plunge him into despair. His temperature remained steady. This allowed him to move through trial after trial without losing command of his mind. His emotion warmed his persistence, but never distorted his judgment. Many men of greater technical skill fell behind him because their emotional temperature varied wildly. Their spirit ran hot with excitement one day, cold with discouragement the next. Ford advanced because he burned evenly. Emotion must be treated as a tool. When you feel the spark of enthusiasm, use it to begin your labor. When you feel the rising flame of purpose, let it strengthen your will. But never allow emotion to dictate your course or to distort the truth of your aim. Emotion can assist purpose, but emotion cannot guide purpose. The moment emotion takes the lead, purpose is lost in the smoke. Consider also the conduct of Charles M. Schwab, a man whose enthusiasm became the talk of industry. But examine his temperament more closely, and you will find that his enthusiasm was not impulsive. It was directed. He kept his emotional temperature high enough to energize those around him, yet controlled enough to maintain clear decision. His warmth attracted cooperation. His steadiness earned trust. This is emotional temperature harnessed with mastery. Now study the failures. You will find among them men who burned too hot. They began their endeavors with great excitement, spoke boldly of their plans, and inspired others with passionate words. But when challenges appeared, and challenges always appear, their enthusiasm cooled rapidly. Their temperature swung wildly from eagerness to resignation. Their progress died not from lack of ability, but from lack of emotional discipline. There is another danger: men who run too cold. These are the men who fear emotion altogether. They repress feeling until their work becomes mechanical and lifeless. Their ideas lack vitality. Their presence lacks influence. They move without inspiration and therefore inspire no one. Controlled temperature does not mean suppressing emotion. It means using emotion as fuel without becoming enslaved by it. The men I studied all possessed warmth, a quiet fire in the heart that radiated conviction. They did not shout. They did not tremble. They carried themselves with a calm heat, a seriousness that others respected instinctively. Their emotional temperature signaled that they cared deeply, worked faithfully, and endured steadily. This heat made their presence felt even before their achievements appeared. Controlled temperature is essential in moments of adversity. A man who loses command of his inner climate becomes helpless against fear, anger, or discouragement. He panics. He speaks rashly. He chooses poorly. But the man who keeps his temperature balanced meets difficulty with a level mind. He neither freezes from fear nor burns from impatience. He remains usable by his own purpose. When a man controls his temperature, he becomes reliable. Others trust him not because he is perfect, but because he is consistent. They know his reactions will not threaten the success of their shared aim. They know he will not crumble in difficulty nor become reckless in victory. Controlled temperature is the foundation of leadership. This law saves time as well as effort. Men who are ruled by emotion waste days recovering from outbursts, regrets, and rash decisions. Their temperature swings consume the very energy needed for advancement. But the man who governs emotion preserves his energy. He moves steadily forward while others pause to cool their tempers or reignite their fading enthusiasm. You must practice this law daily. Observe your temperature. If enthusiasm surges too high, slow your speech, calm your breath, and return to your purpose. If discouragement cools your spirit, recall your aim, repeat your affirmation, and move your hands even if your heart hesitates. Temperature obeys effort. Others will soon feel your stability. They will sense the disciplined fire in your manner. They will trust your counsel. They will follow your lead. A man whose emotional temperature is controlled becomes a source of strength for all who stand near him. Lesson 10. The Law of Deliberate Environments. In every life I studied, whether the life ended in triumph or in quiet failure, one influence appeared again and again, so constant, so silent, and so powerful that most men never recognize its hand. That influence is environment. A man may possess ambition, clarity, discipline, and hope. Yet if he remains in surroundings that deny these qualities, his progress slows, weakens, or collapses. Environment is the soil in which the mind grows. Rich soil multiplies seed. Poor soil suffocates it. This truth forms the law of deliberate environments. Men who rise do not wait for chance surroundings. They shape their environment as a farmer shapes his field. They understand that the mind cannot flourish in disorder, nor thrive in noise, nor strengthen itself among influences that contradict its purpose. A man must therefore take command of the space in which he lives, the people he allows near him, the habits he tolerates, and the objects that occupy his hours. What he permits around him becomes what he produces within him. Observe the conduct of Andrew Carnegie. Before his empire bore fruit, he guarded his environment with the seriousness of one guarding treasure. He kept near him only those men who lifted his thought, sharpened his judgment, or expanded his vision. He removed himself from places that weakened discipline. He sought surroundings that steadied his purpose. These choices, though quiet and unnoticed by the world, shaped the character that shaped his fortune. Likewise, every great inventor, statesman, and thinker maintained a deliberate environment. Edison created a workshop that permitted no idle minds. Bell surrounded himself with instruments and writings that stirred imagination. Lincoln kept his working room simple, ordered, and nearly bare, so that his mind could remain focused on the monumental questions before him. Their surroundings were not accidental. They were crafted. Most men, however, treat environment as a harmless backdrop. They allow noise, disorder, idle voices, and careless influences to settle around them like dust. Their attention becomes divided. Their will weakens. Their aspiration dims. They attempt to rise while standing upon ground that pulls them downward. No man climbs a hill while clinging to the valley that holds him. Deliberate environment extends far beyond physical space. It includes the conversations you engage in, the voices you allow to influence your thought, the books you read, the habits you witness, the routines you maintain. Every influence shapes you, whether you notice it or not. A man becomes like the company he keeps, the words he hears, and the ideas he repeats. Therefore, the wise man curates these influences with the care of a sculptor selecting his tools. You must ask yourself daily, does this place help me think clearly? Does this company strengthen my aim? Do these words lift or limit me? Does this habit anchor or advance me? If the answer weakens your resolve, the environment must change, quietly, decisively, without apology. The world often misjudges this practice. When a man withdraws from idle company, he is called distant. When he seeks solitude, he is called severe. When he refuses noise, he is called arrogant. But he does not act for the approval of the crowd. He acts for the strengthening of his purpose, and when his success unfolds, the same world that questioned him praises the discipline it once misunderstood. There is a subtle danger in environments that appear harmless. A place need not be destructive to hinder growth. It need only be comfortable. Comfort is the slow enemy of progress. It lulls the mind, weakens vigilance, and persuades a man that tomorrow will do. But purposeful surroundings inconvenience, comfort, and protect ambition. They remind the man of the path he has chosen. The greatest shift occurs when a man realizes that he may outgrow his environment. His old companions, once suitable, may no longer share his seriousness. His familiar routines may no longer serve his direction. His usual places may no longer support the man he is becoming. When this realization arrives, he must not shrink from it. Outgrowing is not betrayal, it is advancement. As you practice this law, something remarkable happens. Your mind clears, your energy increases, your decisions sharpen, your purpose strengthens. Others sense the change. They will see in your manner a new steadiness, a new quiet, a new conviction. This is the effect of deliberate surroundings shaping deliberate character. Lesson 11. The Law of Unbroken Advancement. As I traced the lives of men who rose steadily from modest beginnings to commanding influence, I discovered a quiet force working beneath their efforts, a force so simple that most men overlook it, and so powerful that it explains triumphs attributed wrongly to genius or fortune. This force is unbroken advancement, the habit of moving forward without permitting long pauses, emotional collapses, or idle retreats. While the ordinary man labors in bursts of energy and then sinks into periods of stagnation, the successful man advances daily. His steps may be small, but they are never halted. He does not begin and stop. He continues. Unbroken advancement is not a frantic pace. It is not haste, nor strain, nor feverish labor. It is the steady march of a man who has removed hesitation from his nature. His mind turns always toward his aim. His hands find daily work that strengthens his progress. His character grows through repetition. His subconscious receives continual instruction. His purpose deepens through practice, not excitement. The common man exhausts himself because he attempts to renew effort from emotion rather than from discipline. He works intensely when inspiration strikes, then collapses when inspiration fades. His progress is like a flame that burns bright, then dies, then must be rekindled with difficulty. Each interruption weakens his will. Each pause cools his desire. Each retreat forces him to climb again the same hill he abandoned. Thus, he spends years traveling a short distance. But the man who understands unbroken advancement does not rely upon inspiration. He relies upon rhythm. He knows that the mind prefers continuity, that the will strengthens through constancy, and that the subconscious responds most faithfully to repeated signals. When he moves forward every day, even slightly, he stores momentum within his character. This momentum becomes his silent partner, pushing him forward even when the day feels heavy. Observe again the conduct of Thomas Edison. His experiments were not bursts of brilliance, but long chains of effort, each link forged by the day before. He advanced steadily, even through failure. He did not permit difficulty to interrupt his rhythm. Because he continued, his mind remained warmed by purpose. Because he continued, ideas flowed into his imagination. Because he continued, obstacles eventually surrendered. Unbroken advancement turned failure into progress and endurance into achievement. Consider, too, the life of Charles M. Schwab. His success was not the product of sudden leaps, but of steady, unbroken advancement. He moved from minor responsibility to greater ones because he never allowed his efforts to cool. He did not perform with brilliance for a moment. He performed with reliability for years. Men who worked beside him came and went, rising briefly, then falling. He continued, and continuation made him inevitable. Unbroken advancement is also a shield against doubt. Doubt thrives in idleness. When a man pauses too long, his mind becomes vulnerable to fear, comparison, and confusion. But when he advances daily, doubt has no time to take root. His purpose fills his attention. His progress, however modest, reminds him of his ability.